Silence is the ultimate weapon of power. They thought you'd reach out first, that you'd break, that your silence was just temporary static before the storm of regret hit you. But what they never expected was that the silence wouldn't fade. It would grow, it would speak, it would win. My friends, today we're diving into a truth that turns the game upside down. They'll break the silence first. If you do this. So if you're done chasing, done breaking, and done being the only one holding the weight, this message is for you. Hey folks, imagine this. You're standing in a room with two people, one shouting, flailing, desperate to be heard. The other, calm, still, silent. Who has the power? Who owns the energy of the room? It's not the one making the noise. It's the one who makes people wait. That's you now, not the one begging for closure, not the one knocking on locked doors. You've become the silence that makes them itch with discomfort, the stillness they can't ignore. You became the question they can't answer, the puzzle they can't solve, and it's driving them insane. They thought silence meant weakness, that if they pulled away first, you'd panic, that you'd spiral, that you'd beg for answers. But here's what no one told them. Silence isn't giving up, it's leveling up. It's not passive, it's precise. It's the move you make when you realize your energy is too expensive to spend on people who treat your presence like a discount. And right now, whether they admit it or not, your silence is echoing in every corner of their mind, louder than any message you could ever send. My friends, the world teaches us to fight harder when someone pulls away, to prove ourselves, to chase. But that's a lie. A lie built to keep powerful people like you stuck in cycles of begging for crumbs when you were meant to feast. You're not a performer in someone else's circus. You're not a roadside attraction they visit when they're bored. You are a rare energy, a limited edition. And when you go quiet, when you disappear, when you stop trying to convince them of your worth, that's when the real shift begins. That's when they feel the silence choking them, not you. See, they'll laugh during the day, act fine, act unbothered. But the night, oh, that's when the truth shows up, when the phone doesn't buzz, when your name doesn't appear, when they check and double-check and still see nothing. That's when the silence turns from peace to panic, from power to punishment. And it's not because you were loud or dramatic or emotional, it's because you weren't. They don't miss your texts, they miss your energy, your warmth, your presence. You became the ghost that haunts their comfort zone. And here's the kicker, they'll break the silence. Not because you manipulated them, but because you did something they couldn't. You stayed still, you stayed silent. You chose peace over performance. You stopped reacting. You gave them space to hear their own guilt echoing back at them. So what do you do now? You don't gloat, you don't post, you don't send that just checking in message. You keep rising, keep building, keep becoming so magnetic, so untouchable, that they can't help but feel the distance burning like fire in their chest. Remember, folks, the most unforgettable people are the ones who vanished without a word and left a legacy in their absence. Right now, I want you to take your power back. Say it in the comments. I don't break. 3 words. That's your sword. That's your shield. Write it, own it. Let it echo across this community. And if you're feeling that shift already, if something in your gut is waking up, smash that like button, subscribe for more strength like this, and stay with me, because what's coming next will completely rewire how you see silence, control, and power. Number 1. Why silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. He who does not know how to be silent will never know how to speak with power. Seneca. They told you silence was weakness, didn't they? That the one who talks less, who walks away, who doesn't explain, is the one who's lost. That silence is surrender. But my friends, let's crack that lie wide open today. Because silence, real, intentional, unshakable silence, is not a retreat. It's a strategy. It's the move of someone who understands that not every battle deserves their sword, and not every fool deserves a response. Picture this: a chessboard. Your opponent slams down every move, overconfident, loud, dramatic. But you lean back, you study, you wait. And when the time is right, with a single, silent move, you checkmate. Game over. That's the power silence gives you. They thought you were folding, but really, you were focusing. And now, while they fill the air with distractions, you've become the quiet they can't ignore, the stillness that demands attention. You see, silence doesn't scream to be heard. It stands, and by standing still, it commands the entire room. And right now, while they thought they were holding power by pulling away, they're starting to feel the shift. That eerie calm before the storm. Because here's the truth: when someone is expecting chaos, silence becomes the loudest sound in the universe. But I know what might be crawling through your mind right now. What if they think I don't care? What if my silence makes them forget me? What if they move on? That's the fear. That if you're not visible, you'll become invisible. That if you're not loud, you'll be forgotten. But listen to me, my friends, and listen well. Power isn't in chasing, it's in choosing not to. And what you're choosing now isn't absence, it's elevation. Let me give it to you like this. A lion doesn't respond to every bark it hears in the jungle. It doesn't roar just to prove it's alive. It watches, it waits. It understands that the loudest ones are usually the most scared. And right now, your silence isn't weakness, it's restraint. The kind of strength that shakes foundations. The kind of stillness that unsettles those who thought they could play with your presence. They expected a fight. They expected you to crack, to explain, to bleed words. But instead, you handed them something they couldn't predict. Nothing, no reaction, no text, no closure. And that nothing, it's cutting deeper than any speech ever could. Now let's talk about why this is hard, why it feels like silence is the uphill battle. Because we've been programmed to believe that speaking means we're in control, that if we just say the right thing, they'll understand, they'll change, they'll come back. But the truth? The people who deserve your presence will never need to be convinced of it. And those who walk away when you're silent, they were never listening to begin with. My friends, silence is strength, but only when it's chosen, only when it's backed by belief in your value. And I know this level of calm can be terrifying, because silence means sitting with yourself, and healing, and rising. And that's not easy, but I promise you, it's worth it. Because while they're out there making noise, trying to fill the void you left, you're over here becoming everything they thought you couldn't be without them: strong, stable, stoic. And here's the twist: they'll break the silence. They'll reach out. Not because you forced them to, but because silence forced them to face themselves. And most people can't survive that reflection. That's why they run. That's why they fall apart. And that's why they eventually look back at you. Not because you begged, but because you didn't. So today, you're not just choosing silence. You're choosing control. You're choosing to not dance for attention, to not audition for someone who lost the privilege to witness your heart in motion. You're choosing the long game, the one that always ends with the calm, grounded, focused soul rising while the reactive ones burn out. Right now, I want you to anchor into this truth and write it in the comments. My silence is power. Say it out loud. Let it echo through you. Let it hit like thunder. Show yourself. Show the doubters. Show the world what real strength looks like, not in volume, but in vibration. And don't go anywhere, because what's coming next will flip everything you thought you knew about absence, attraction, and how the quietest ones always leave the deepest scars. Stay with me, because you're only just beginning to see the storm your silence is becoming. Number 2. The psychology of absence. Why they feel it first. Nothing haunts us like the things we didn't say, the people we didn't appreciate, and the silence we thought meant nothing. They thought walking away would set them free. They thought your silence would be a relief, that they'd sleep better, feel lighter, move on faster. But my friends, silence doesn't dissolve energy, it amplifies it, especially when it's the kind of silence that comes after real love, real presence, real connection. The kind of silence that doesn't scream, but echoes, long after your name is deleted, long after the thread is cleared, long after the games are over. And here's the paradox no one tells you. The one who walks away often feels the loss first. Not because they admit it, not because they break down in public. No, they wear the mask just fine during the day. They laugh, they scroll, they post like they're living their best life. But at night, when everything quiets down, when there's no one to impress, when no one's watching, that's when it hits. That's when your absence becomes a presence too loud to silence. Think about it. It's 2 a.m. They're lying there, still and quiet, staring at a ceiling that used to feel like comfort, and suddenly your memory becomes a storm cloud over their chest. Heavy, unshakable. It's not your voice they miss, it's the energy you brought, the peace, the grounding, the way you saw them when they weren't even sure they were worth being seen. And now they're swimming in noise. Empty laughs, surface-level connections, validation with no soul behind it. Because the truth is, you were the silence they didn't know how to value, and now it's the silence haunting them. But let's get real here. Why do they feel it first when you're the one who was left in silence? Because power shifts when emotion stops chasing and starts retreating. You didn't beg, you didn't explain, you didn't try to patch a sinking ship with desperate apologies. You pulled back, you shut your mouth, and in that moment, you created the one thing the human mind can't stand, a gap. And the mind hates gaps. It fills them, it replays old moments, it wonders what you're thinking, what you're doing, who you're becoming. It obsesses. And here's the kicker, they can't ask. Their pride won't let them. So they sit in it. They suffer in silence because they can't bear to be the one to admit they lost something they never thought they'd miss. They don't have access anymore. And when people lose access to a steady presence they took for granted, the regret doesn't hit like a flash flood. It comes like a slow, suffocating fog, day by day, regret by regret, until they're knee-deep in memories they tried to bury. Folks, this is the beauty of emotional detachment. You're not punishing them, you're protecting yourself. You're not ghosting, you're growing. You're not hoping they feel the void. You're becoming so fulfilled that their absence feels like a gift. But don't be surprised when they start lurking, when they view your stories, when they scroll old photos, when they send that casual "hey" at 1:47 a.m., hoping you're still who you used to be. Because here's what they're realizing in your absence. You were a one of one, not a placeholder, not a backup, not a temporary escape. You were the storm and the calm, the mirror and the light. And now that they've lost access to that, their soul is starving for it. And they might not say it, they might not admit it, but make no mistake, they feel it first. You don't have to raise your voice for them to hear you. They're already hearing the silence. You don't have to post anything dramatic. They're already stalking the ghost of your energy. You don't have to break the silence. Because they will. Eventually, they always do. But your job is not to wait. Your job is not to shrink back into that role they handed you when they didn't know how to love you. Your job is to rise, quietly, daily, steadily. You become the storm they tried to walk away from, but now can't stop chasing in dreams they'll never speak about. Right now, I want you to claim your power in the comments. Type these 4 words and let the world hear it without a single sound. My absence has power. Say it, feel it, write it, own it. Let it echo in your soul and show yourself, show them, show the universe who you are when you stop shrinking for people who only wanted parts of you. And stay with me, because next, we're going even deeper into the magnetic mystery you create when you stop explaining and start evolving. They won't just miss you, they'll crave you. Let's keep rising, my friends. Number 3. Mystery is magnetic. Why the unknown triggers obsession. We are not drawn to what we fully understand. We are drawn to what we cannot explain. My friends, let's talk about a force more powerful than attention, more haunting than memory, more addictive than affection: mystery, the unknown, the unanswered, the unseen. That's what drives people mad. That's what keeps them up at night, scrolling through old messages, replaying half smiles, decoding what you meant by that one last text. See, you don't need to be loud to be unforgettable. You don't need to say a word to occupy their mind. All you have to do is stay still, stay silent, stay a little unreadable, because mystery isn't distance, it's gravity, and it pulls harder than any words ever could. They thought they knew you. They thought they had you all figured out. They thought they could walk away and never look back, but you flipped the script. You didn't beg. You didn't clarify. You didn't overshare. You became a closed book, and the moment you stopped explaining yourself, they started rereading every chapter they ignored. That's the game changer right there, because now you're not just someone they left, you're someone they wonder about. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine walking past 2 doors. One is wide open. You glance inside. You might even take a step in, but there's nothing to discover. Everything is out in the open. Now the other door? Just slightly ajar, just enough to catch a flicker of light, just enough to make you pause, to lean in, to wonder. And now you can't stop thinking about what's behind it. That's the door you've become. That's the power you've stepped into. See, when you stop telling them how much you care, when you stop posting quotes about healing and missing people, when you stop trying to be understood, you become magnetic, not because you're cold, but because you're contained. You're no longer performing your emotions for an audience that didn't clap when you were bleeding. You're no longer giving them the satisfaction of knowing where you stand. And that's what twists their mind into obsession, not knowing. They're wondering, are you still hurt? Did you move on? Are you thriving? Do you even miss them? They don't know. And that, folks, is the torment. Because people can forget noise, but they can't forget questions. And right now, you're the question they don't have the answer to. You're the cliffhanger in a story they thought was finished. You're the mystery that keeps rewriting itself every time they think they've figured you out. But let's be real, this isn't easy. Holding back when you care takes strength. When you love someone, every part of you wants to give, to explain, to reconnect. That's human. That's your heart talking. But here's the truth. Mystery isn't about faking detachment. It's about practicing self-respect. It's about saying, not everyone deserves the full map to my soul. And when you embrace that, when you stop handing over access to people who didn't value you when you were wide open, you start to glow different. You become rare, and people crave what's rare. So now, they're in the loop of wondering, playing detective, scrolling, checking, watching, hoping. But here's what they don't realize. Your mystery isn't a trap. It's a mirror. It shows them what they lost, what they didn't recognize, what they may never get back. You didn't disappear to hurt them. You disappeared to find yourself. But in doing so, you became the shadow they see in every room, the spark they can't recreate with someone new, the silence that plays louder than their playlist at 2 a.m. And while they wonder, you evolve, you rise, you become even more unreadable. Not because you're hiding, but because you're healing, because your energy no longer screams, "Notice me." It hums. Only the worthy will understand. That, my friends, is the kind of vibe that people don't forget. That's the kind of mystery that turns distance into obsession. So right now, if you're ready to stop over-explaining, if you're done with being an open book for people who never bothered to read the pages, I want you to write these 4 words in the comments. I protect my mystery. Say it like you mean it. Say it with pride. Let it be your shield, your boundary, your silent siren song. And stay close, because in the next section, we're going to uncover the psychological shift that happens when you stop explaining and they start remembering. You're not vanishing, you're becoming unforgettable. Let's keep rising. Number 4. When you stop explaining, they start remembering. The less you say, the more they wonder, and wondering is the beginning of remembering. My friends, there's a moment in every journey of silence, a turning point, when everything flips. It's not when you speak, it's when you stop explaining. Because when you go quiet, when you stop justifying, when you stop pouring your heart out to people who didn't have the depth to hold it, that's when they start remembering. And not just the good times. They start remembering everything, the way you loved, the way you stayed, the way you made them feel safe, seen, understood. All the things they swore they didn't need, until your silence made them realize just how much it all mattered. See, explaining is an addiction. Let's be real. We explain because we want closure, because we want to be understood, because somewhere deep down we think that maybe, just maybe, if they knew how much they hurt us, if they understood our side, they'd come back different. But here's the lie, folks. Understanding doesn't come from you speaking louder. It comes from them sitting in silence long enough to hear their own echo. Imagine it like this. You're a lighthouse. You've been beaming your truth into the fog, hoping they'd notice, hoping they'd steer their ship toward you. But they didn't. They were too busy chasing storms, getting lost in distractions. So you shut the light off, not to punish them, but to protect your energy. And suddenly, out at sea, surrounded by darkness, they remember what your light looked like, what it felt like. They remember the warmth, the steadiness, the way it never flickered, even when they didn't appreciate it. And now they're drifting, now they're haunted, because you didn't explain, you vanished. And that vanishing act became the trigger that replayed every moment they thought they'd forgotten. That's how memory works. It doesn't respond to pressure, it responds to presence. And the absence of your presence, it's pressure they weren't prepared for. You gave them nothing to argue with, no closure to wrap their guilt in, no defense to twist your words, just space, just silence. And in that space, the brain starts working overtime. It starts connecting dots, replaying texts, reconstructing your facial expressions in moments they brushed off. It turns into a haunted theater of their own making. And you? You become the main character in a story they no longer have access to. But let's not pretend this is easy. Holding back when your heart wants to pour out every truth you never got to say, it takes strength, it takes discipline, it takes emotional power, especially when every part of you is screaming, maybe if they just understood. But my friends, you owe no one a front row seat to your pain, especially not the ones who walked out of the theater before the show was over. Your silence is not cold. It's sacred. It's your final act, the one they never saw coming. And here's what's beautiful. They may try to rewrite history, to tell themselves you overreacted, that you were too much, too intense, too emotional. But no lie can erase a real connection. And when you stay quiet, when you let your healing do the talking, truth has a way of showing up uninvited, in flashbacks, in songs, in places, in people that can't measure up. That's when remembering turns into realizing, and realizing turns into regret. Let me be clear, your goal isn't to make them suffer. You're not staying silent to play games. You're staying silent because you've remembered something too. Your worth. Your energy is not for sale. Your heart is not a campaign. And your love is not something to be earned by people who only understood its value when it disappeared. So while they scroll, while they wonder, while they stare at the phone thinking about typing a message they may never send, you're rising. Quietly, powerfully, day by day, and their memories. That's not your concern anymore. Because the truth is, they had every chance when you were explaining. They didn't listen. Now they remember. And that's the consequence of taking real love lightly. Right now, I want you to write this in the comments and declare it to yourself, to the world, to the universe. I owe no explanation. Let that be your fire. Let that be your freedom. Say it until you believe it. Because silence isn't running away, it's rising above. And stay with me, because what we're about to unpack next is the part that makes everything click. The moment when you stop needing closure and start realizing that closure was never a conversation. It was your decision to move forward without one. Let's keep rising together. Number 5, you hold the power by not needing closure. Sometimes the closure you're looking for is simply the realization that they were never ready for someone like you. My friends, let's rip the bandage off this one, because closure, as the world sells it, is a lie. It's a fantasy sold to people who still want to believe that the person who hurt them will one day turn around and heal the wound they created. But here's the brutal truth. You don't need closure from someone who couldn't even offer you clarity when you mattered most. The moment you realize that, the chains come off. The silence becomes your strength. And you step into a level of power that most people never reach, because most people are still out here begging for explanations instead of building their evolution. Let me ask you something. What is it you think you'll get from that one last conversation? From that one final text? From that call where they finally say what you hoped they'd say? Is it peace? Is it validation? Is it the missing piece of the puzzle? Here's the twist, folks. The piece you're hoping for isn't in their mouth. It's in your mirror. You're waiting for someone who couldn't meet your depth to suddenly become a diver. You're expecting someone who ran from accountability to hand you healing. It doesn't work like that, and it never will. Closure isn't about them. It's about you deciding that you're no longer sitting at a table where your soul is being starved. That's it. That's the breakthrough. That's the moment the power shifts. Because when you stop waiting for them to wrap things up, when you stop fantasizing about the apology that's never coming, you reclaim the energy you were wasting. You get to use that energy to build, to become, to rise. Now I know, your heart still aches. You still replay what you would have said if they'd just listened. You still write messages in your head and delete them before you even type them. You still wake up some mornings wondering if maybe today will be the day they finally reach out with the truth. But listen, my friends, you're not alone in that. That's human, that's raw. But just because it's human doesn't mean it's helpful. You don't need to go back into the fire just to prove you can survive it. You already did. You're here. You're breathing. You're healing. You're reading this message not because you're broken, but because you're building. And you don't need their permission to move forward. You don't need their blessing to be free. Let me give you a metaphor you won't forget. Imagine someone hands you a book, and halfway through, they snatch it back, tear out the final chapter, and say, "Good luck making sense of that." You could chase them down, you could beg for the missing pages, or you could pick up your own pen, turn the page, and write a better ending yourself. That's closure. Not getting the chapter back, but realizing you are the author now. That's why your silence is louder than any closing conversation, because it says, "I'm not waiting for you to realize what you lost. I'm too busy becoming someone you'll never have access to again." And oh, how powerful that silence becomes. It's not bitter, it's not cold, it's final, it's sacred. It's your line in the sand, the one they'll never cross again. They may come back, they may try. They may test the waters with a "how have you been" or a like on an old post. But you'll know, you'll feel it. And this time, you won't need anything from them. Not answers, not reasons, not validation. Because the version of you they walked away from needed closure. But the version of you that's rising, they are the closure. Right now, I want you to write this in the comments and stamp it like a seal on your soul. I create my own closure. Say it with fire. Say it with freedom. Let the world hear it. Let your old self hear it. Let them hear it without a single word from your mouth, only from your growth, your silence, your strength. And stay with me, because next we're stepping into one of the most underestimated weapons of self-mastery, emotional control. When you master that, you don't just survive the silence. You own it, you use it, and you walk into rooms with a calm so deep, even your absence leaves a mark. Let's keep rising together. Number 6, mastering emotional control, the silent power they never expected. The strongest people are not those who show strength in front of us, but those who win battles we know nothing about. My friends, let's get something straight. Emotional control isn't about acting like you don't feel anything. It's about choosing not to react to everything you feel. It's not numbness, it's mastery. And when you master your emotions, when you stop handing your reactions over to people who don't deserve them, you become untouchable in a world that thrives on chaos and attention-seeking. You become a fortress with no visible cracks, calm on the outside, unshakable on the inside. And that, my friends, is the power they never saw coming. They expected your silence to break you. They thought it was just a phase, a pause before the explosion. They expected the text, the call, the emotional outburst, the confession. But instead, they got stillness, peace, distance. That's when confusion sets in, because emotional control isn't just silence. It's presence without panic. It's the way you're calm while they unravel. It's the way you don't flinch when they try to test your temperature. You're no longer on their emotional leash. You cut the cord, and now they're the ones swinging in uncertainty. Let me give you a metaphor. Picture a lake on a windless morning. No ripples, just smooth, glassy silence. That's you. But underneath that still surface, power, depth, movement. The kind of force that doesn't announce itself, but could flood the land if it chose to. That's what emotional control looks like. You're not empty, you're full, but your fullness is focused, contained, precise. See, emotional control doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you decide what deserves your energy. Not every insult gets a response. Not every trigger deserves your attention. Not every person who left gets to come back and stir up your peace just because they're bored, guilty, or confused. And when they realize they can't rattle you like before, That's when they lose control. Because you didn't just grow up, you leveled up. But let's talk about why emotional control is so difficult. Because we're taught to believe that if we don't respond, we don't care. That silence means we're cold. That calm means we've moved on too fast. That's the lie. Emotional chaos is not the proof of love. You can love deeply and still walk away quietly. You can care and still choose peace over performance. And when you do, that's when people who once had access to your emotional highs and lows realize they don't even know who you are anymore. That's what shakes them. Not the silence, but the new version of you who's not reacting, not explaining, not arguing, not showing up for conversations that never respected your heart. You've stopped being predictable. You've stopped handing out emotional VIP passes like candy. And now, your silence feels like distance they don't know how to bridge. And make no mistake, they feel it. They feel the absence of your emotional presence, the lack of your warmth, the quiet strength that replaced the old vulnerability. And they can't figure out if you're healed, hurt, moved on, or mastering something they never had the patience to understand. That's the beauty of emotional control. You become a mirror, and the calmness they see in you reflects the chaos inside them. You don't need to say a thing. Your peace screams. It makes noise without volume, and that noise, it stays with them, in the quiet, in the guilt, in the moments they expect a reaction, and get a reminder that they lost access to the most valuable part of you, your presence. So right now, I want you to speak this truth into your soul. Type it in the comments like a contract between the old you and the new. I control my energy. Say it with pride. Say it with power. Let it be the boundary that protects you from people who don't know how to handle what you carry. And stay with me, my friends, because next we're diving into the most potent result of this entire transformation. The moment when they realize they didn't just lose your presence, they lost access to your evolution. And by then, you're not the same person they once knew. Let's keep rising, because this journey is only getting deeper. Number 7. The shift they never expected. You outgrew the version of you they abandoned. You won't heal by going back to what broke you. You grow by becoming someone they can no longer reach. My friends, let's step into one of the most powerful moments of this entire journey. The moment when the tables quietly turn and they realize something terrifying. You're no longer the version of you they left behind. And that realization? It doesn't come when they're smiling in public. It hits them in private, when the noise fades, when the distractions die down, and they finally have to sit with what they walked away from, and who you've become since. See, they thought they were walking away from a chapter they'd already read. They thought they knew how your story would unfold without them, but what they didn't realize was that the moment they left, you started writing a new book, new pages, new mindset, new energy, and the lead character, someone they can't even recognize anymore, not because you've changed out of spite, but because growth was the only option left when their silence became your starting line. And now they're trying to access someone who doesn't exist anymore. Let me give you a picture. Imagine a butterfly going back to explain itself to the caterpillar. Sounds absurd, right? That's you. You've evolved past the need to be understood by people who were only present for your unhealed version, the version that over-explained, that tolerated too much, that questioned their worth every time someone pulled away. That version may have waited by the phone, may have cried in silence, may have begged in text messages they never had the decency to answer. But you're not them anymore. They thought your silence was a pause. They thought you'd wait. that you'd orbit around them forever, hoping they'd wake up. But instead of circling them, you launched, you moved, you healed. Not all at once, but moment by moment, breath by breath, decision by decision. You took all that pain and built a ladder out of it. And now, you're standing on a level they can't reach with the same old games, the same tired charm, the same just checking in messages. It doesn't hit the same anymore, because you've become someone who doesn't chase, doesn't cling, and doesn't compromise peace just to feel temporarily wanted. And that, my friends, is when the true shift happens. When the person who once had easy access to your heart starts realizing they no longer know the code. The door doesn't open like it used to. The warmth doesn't return like clockwork. The replies don't come at all. And suddenly, they're not just missing you, they're grieving a version of you they thought they could take for granted. But I know what you're thinking. Why does it still hurt then? Why do I still feel the weight even though I've grown? Because growth isn't clean. It's not a straight line. It's messy. You'll have moments when you remember how much you gave, how deeply you felt, how hard you held on. And it's okay to feel that. You're not weak for missing the old you. You're just strong enough to not go back to them. They will realize it, though. They will. And not when you're watching, not when you're hoping, but when you've already moved on. They'll hear your name and flinch. They'll see someone with your laugh and feel a pang of guilt. They'll scroll by your photos and feel like a stranger looking into a life they used to belong to. And that's not revenge. That's reality. Because you're not the memory. They are. You're the evolution. You're the version that learned how to love without needing permission, how to heal without being held, how to rise without applause. And now they watch you from a distance. And distance, my friends, is the final teacher. So right now, if you're ready to close the gap between who you were and who you are becoming, I want you to write these 4 words in the comments like a declaration. I've outgrown the past. Say it. Mean it. Let it echo in your soul. Let it remind you that your growth is not for their validation. It's for your liberation. And don't go anywhere. Because next, we're unlocking the moment when they try to come back. And you realize you've built a life so good, they no longer fit into the doorway. Let's keep rising. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of a whole new chapter. Number 8, when they try to come back, but you've already outgrown the door. Sometimes people come back not because they miss you, but because they see you've moved on without needing them. My friends, this is the moment you didn't expect, but secretly hoped for. The ping, the "Hey stranger" text. The old photo liked at 2 a.m., the quiet attempt to re-enter your atmosphere like nothing ever happened. But here's the truth they're about to choke on. They're coming back to a place they no longer belong, because the door they once walked through without knocking, it's locked now, not out of revenge, but evolution. Not because you're bitter, but because you've built better. See, they never thought you'd make it this far. They thought silence was a tactic, not a transformation. They thought you were sitting in the dark, waiting for the light of their return. But you weren't. You became the light. You found your own fire, and you used it to build a home in your soul, one that doesn't open for half-effort, low-vibe energy anymore. They left expecting the old version of you to still be sitting by the window. But when they return, you're not even in that house anymore. Let me give you a metaphor. Think of yourself as a castle, a fortress, high walls, deep roots, stained glass that tells the story of everything you've survived. You used to keep the gates open. You used to wave people in, hoping they'd see the beauty. But now there's a drawbridge. Now there are standards. Now only the worthy enter. And when they show up, charmed smile, empty apology, hoping nostalgia will do the heavy lifting. You don't even need to argue. The silence is the answer. Because they don't recognize the structure anymore. Because it wasn't built for them. It was built after them. And trust me, that stings in a way they'll never admit. They thought they had time. They thought you'd be waiting. But nothing humbles the ego like realizing the door you once slammed no longer opens from the inside. And you? You're not standing behind it wondering if they'll knock. You're too busy living, too busy laughing, too busy thriving in a chapter they don't get to co-write. But here's the key. Don't let your growth turn into performance. You're not shining to show them what they lost. You're shining because you finally realized what you were worth. You're not doing better to make them regret. You're doing better because regret doesn't feed your soul. Peace does. And when peace becomes your priority, everything changes. You stop needing them to see. You stop needing them to apologize. You stop needing closure, validation, or explanation. Because you've become the version of you who needed no one's permission to heal. So when they come back, and believe me, most will, you'll feel it. That pull, that flicker of what if. But I want you to remember something deep in your bones. You did the work without them. You cried without them. You rose without them. You became whole without their help. And that kind of growth, it's not meant to be revisited. It's meant to be protected. That's what real emotional wealth looks like. That's what spiritual self-respect feels like. It's not loud. It doesn't need to post screenshots or quote lyrics. It just lives in your stillness, in your glow, in your refusal to open the same door that once led you to pain. And the best part, you're not angry, you're not bitter, you're free. And that freedom, that self-made peace, that unshakable calm, it's the loudest message they'll never be able to unhear. So right now, I want you to write these 4 words in the comments and let it ring like a victory bell. I've closed that door. Say it for the person you used to be. Say it for the one who held on too long. Say it for the future that doesn't include ghosts in the passenger seat. Let it be your boundary. Let it be your badge of honor. And if this message lit a fire in you, if it reminded you of your power, your worth, your evolution, then smash that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who's still waiting by a door that should have been closed long ago. Because what's coming next? Oh, my friends, we're not just healing anymore. We're building a life so magnetic, even our silence becomes the loudest anthem of power.